and we've got so much to go over. Congressman Griffith, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you.
So today you get on, and today the debt hit over $20 trillion, and it is a footnote in history. Nobody else has said anything about it except me. You had a $20 trillion debt, no end in sight. Where do we go, Congressman, from here?
Well, we have to have the resolve, and D.C. has not yet shown that resolve to make some fundamental changes in what we're doing. Even small baby steps would be helpful. We can't even get them to do that. That was part of a number of folks, the Freedom Caucus, of which I remember, the Republican Study Committee, all said, look, if we're going to raise the debt ceiling, and nobody wants to default on the government's debt, but if we're going to raise the debt ceiling, we've got to at least put in some modicum of reform that shows that we're trying to move in the right direction.
Okay,
and,
so
they just said no.
You got a 3-month extension, but I guess what many of us look at here is that Trump was adamant, the president was adamant about doing this for 90 days. And he said, I don't want continuing resolutions for 18 months where the debt just goes on and there's no accountability. What I would like is for Congress to pass a budget so that we don't have CRs. And can you do that in 90 days? Now, we both know that's not going to happen. And we both know the government's not going to get shut down before Christmas. So it goes back to the fact we're not going to do anything about it. And come December 15th, there'll be another 18-month CR because nothing will get done, right? I mean, that's just reality.
Well, I hope that's not the reality, but it may very well be. But the problem is I do believe that the House will pass a budget. I believe that this week we're going to pass appropriations bills, which will be the first time in, I don't know how long, at least 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years, that either house has actually passed appropriations bills. We have 12 of those. We're going to send those over to the Senate where they will die, as you know. And unfortunately, because of the ineptitude of the Senate and the crazy Senate rules. But the House is supposed to, according to Jefferson, we're supposed to do our job and then send it over and let the other House do their job. That would be the Senate. We're going to, I think, get our job done at least. It may not be perfect, but we're going to get our job done. But the Senate is in disarray. As I've said for years, their rules are a danger to the republic itself. Forget whether you're a Democrat or a Republican Party member. This is a danger to the republic that we all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands.
Right.
And this is danger. The fact that we can't get anything done is a danger to the republic, and it rests at the feet of Mitch McConnell and the senators.
I tell you what, that is spot on, because with the 60-vote cloture rule, which even the president has asked the majority leader to get rid of, it just stops anything positive from happening. Okay, let's get to some of the detail now. What did you think of the Trump deal with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi the other day in order to get this 90-day deal done?
Well, I didn't like the deal. A reporter, of course, they didn't print this. That's the way they do. They pick and choose which quotes they want. A reporter stopped and said, "Are you mad at your leadership? Are you mad at the president?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm mad at the Senate and the Senate leadership, because when they couldn't do health care, even the skinny bill, at the end of July to get us into a conference committee on our biggest promise, repeal and replace, they said to the president, we're ineffective, we can't work. So he had no choice but to go and make a deal, in my opinion, with the Democrats. Now, I didn't vote for it because I don't like the deal. But the bottom line is, I understand why the president had to do it. Paul Ryan's first reaction was, this is crazy. He then backed off a little bit because it's what the president wanted, and nobody wanted a government shutdown. But I think it was a bad deal. I will tell you that the only people who I think ended up winning out of that entire deal were Ed Gillespie, the Republican ticket, and people running for office in Virginia this year, because it did take off the table a government shutdown, a debt ceiling crisis where people would claim we were going to default on our debt. That's not going to happen. You and I know that, but you know how the media would react. All that's off the table, and the media can't react to that now. But that's not good government. It might be good politics, but it wasn't good government, so I didn't like the deal.
You know what? I agree with that 100%. It really did help the statewide candidates, because the Democrats are already starting to say in Virginia, hey, there's going to be a government shutdown. There's going to be a shutdown. There's going to be a shutdown. People aren't going to get paid. we're going to default on our debt. And, of course, we all know what happened when that went down in 2013. That was the end of any chance the Republicans had at picking up any of the statewide offices. So you're spot on that. Republican Congressman, 9th District, Virginia, Morgan Griffith with us, also a member of the Freedom Caucus. The president, I was at a meeting at the White House on Friday. The president adamant in getting a tax reform package done by Christmas. And his tax reform package, massive, that includes significant reductions in corporate business taxes, middle-class income tax cut, doubling the deductible, doubling the available child care credit, repatriation, simplifying the tax code so that it can be done on one page without tax lawyers, closing the loopholes for the wealthy so that they have to play by the same rules as everybody else. And they want to get this done by Christmas. Is it even possible?
It is possible. I think that all of those are the goals. We have yet to see the actual package. But where they're trying to go, both Chairman Brady of Ways and Means in the House and the President, I think are on the right track, and I look forward to supporting it, but I can't give a final yes until I've actually seen it. And so I want to see what they're doing, and they're trying to negotiate all of this out, and I guess because of the way the Senate is, you have to get that worked out in advance. But I'd rather see the legislative process work because I think the House could come out with a better package. Then the Senate would maybe water it down some. But if we come out with a package, and I think we have to get this economy moving,
right?
Then I think we have to do this. So I think it is possible. And, you know, the previous administration kept telling us that 2% growth was okay.
Right.
2% growth is better than nothing, I grant you. But 2% shouldn't be our goal. The president set a goal of 3 or 4%. He's absolutely right. There's no reason why the American economy shouldn't, in a healthy climate, grow 3 or 4%. I did see an article this morning that said that the hurricanes were going to slow us down. That's probably true, but if we can do tax reform, we'll still get that 3 to 4% growth. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And repatriation, I think, is a no-brainer, and I hope we can get that done. And I'm happy to explain that if your folks don't know what that is, but it's a big deal.
All right, we're going to get to that in a second. I want to get to how tax reform works, because I talked to Speaker Gingrich offline on Friday afternoon, and he was very concerned because the principles of the president's massive tax reform package was not being carried by anybody. And he said, they want to put it through regular order, but, we're in September. There's no markup. And he said, right now, it's not on Trump time. It's on politics time, which is March or April. So, and you just said it, there's nothing you can look at and say on for this. So how does this thing, what are they trying to do when they say they wanted to go through regular order? The speaker criticizing that to some extent. How does this thing come into being? How do you have something?
Well, what they're doing is they're negotiating and talking with a lot of people behind the scenes. Then they will come out with their bill, and then we have to decide whether we're for it or not. And when they come out with their bill, it'll go through the committee and then to the floor. My fear is the timetable. I don't think we can do it in March or April. I think we have to get it done before the end of the year.
Right, it's got to be done by
because
Christmas.
People start, particularly in the Senate, they start campaigning. They don't want to take any risks. Look, there are going to be people who are happy. The big items are going to stay, like home interest deductions and those kinds of things. But there are going to be a lot of deductions that are going to disappear, and that's all going to work out okay. People just understand that with the rate deduction, that you're not going to need all those other deductions if you file that way. For the average family, they're going to be able to file their form on a postcard. That's the goal. I'm in agreement with all the goals, but we do need to see it. I think it can be done by the end of the year. I don't know that it will be done by the end of the year, but we need to start actually being able to see a bill so we can figure out what we like about it and what maybe we needs to be tweaked. Until we see it, it's very difficult to deal with it.
So does that come out of leadership, or does it come out of, where does it emanate?
Well, I think that is a leadership issue. I think that both the Senate and the House leadership need to push their folks to go ahead and put the bill on the table, even if it has to be tweaked. And Chairman Brady, I think, would be, he's been working on plans for years, and it looks good. And I was fortunate enough to have dinner with he and a bunch of others, but he and his Vice Chairman Roscom on this issue. And, I like everything I hear. I just haven't seen a plan yet. I want to see it in writing so I can read it and make decisions.
Okay, we're with Congressman Morgan Griffith, Republican, 9th District, Southwest Virginia. Congressman Griffith, you mentioned repatriation. There is somewhere between $3 and $5 trillion of cash parked overseas. Why is it over there? Because our corporate income tax is 35%. The effective rate is 18%. That's about 70% higher than anybody else that we compete with, whether it's Japan, England, or whatever. Also, when you make money overseas, if you bring it back in, you get a double tax or actually a triple tax. So therefore, companies keep it overseas. Same thing I would do or anybody would do if they were a good steward of their money. How do we get this money back in the U.S.? Explain the whole process.
Well, I think we just have to say to folks that, if you bring that money back to the United States and you are going to reinvest it, then we're not going to charge you the tax on it. Because what we're doing right now, if you make money in Indonesia or any country, but I'm just going to pick Indonesia. If you make money in Indonesia, as you said, and you bring it back to this country, you're going to pay about 35% on it one way or another. You're going to get a couple of times. But if you leave in Indonesia to reinvest in building a factory or something in Indonesia, we don't tax you at all. That's crazy. Let's have those people bring it back, give them the same deal they'd get over there, bring that money back to the United States, and reinvest it here. Now, if they're just going to bring it back and put it into, the pockets of the shareholders, and I'm not against that, but if that's what they're going to do, then we should just tax them the regular rate, which should be much lower than it is today, but we should just charge them the regular rate. But if they're going to reinvest it by building factories and creating jobs in the United States, we shouldn't be charging them a penny to bring that money back. And that's what we do if they reinvest in Germany or Indonesia or Thailand. We say, oh, you're reinvesting it, no tax. That's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense at all. And there's so much money at stake because you're right. I mean, if you reinvest the money in Vietnam, you get no tax. If you
get no tax.
Reinvest the money in Detroit, you're going to get 35%. I mean, it just doesn't. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So, and I agree there needs to not even be a reduction, just a holiday. You come back, you put the money back in the U.S. economy, you pay no tax. Because, look, they're not paying taxes on it now. So it's not like there's a decrease in revenue. They're paying nothing. You might as well bring it back, make investments, create jobs, help grow the economy, right? It's crazy.
Absolutely. You're exactly right.
Makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, Congressman, let's get to DACA. Dave Bratt yesterday predicted there's going to be an amnesty bill come out of the House, but it isn't going to come out until July of 2018 after all of the primaries are over. So it's kind of a cynical view. So let me just ask you straight up. We have two issues with DACA. One, we have 690,000 DACA participants that can go through the process in applying for a 2-year work permit temporary extension. When those run out, either they have several choices: stay in the United States illegally, apply for a different visa legally, apply through the regular system, or go home. So there's two questions. Question number one is, are you in favor of an amnesty for the current 690 that are in the country today? And then the second question is, are you in favor of continuing the DACA program and taking new applications going forward, which President Trump essentially ended a week ago? So it's a two-part question.
Well, and there's so many different parts to this, but I do think that we need to have our laws enforced, and that means that I don't favor continuing the DACA program as it is. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I am on a bill that says that if you serve honorably in the United States military and you were brought here under the age of 16, that if you serve honorably in the United States military and you're willing to put your life on the line, that then you can get a path to citizenship, get a green card, and start doing what you're supposed to. But that's as far as I'm willing to go at this point. I do think, though, it is our system where it costs people $10,000 to hire an attorney to come in legally. Let's forget that they're not even here. They're just trying to come in from some other country. Come in legally, share the American dream. I think our system is too complicated. It was a goofy system that started in the 60s. It's been amended a few times, but it was a Ted Kennedy brainchild, and it hasn't served the country well. We need to have a complete overhaul of that. That's not amnesty. That's just saying, let's look at what we got and make our system better so that people who have talent, want to come to the United States and share in the American dream can do so legally in an easier fashion. That being said, if you're here illegally, you need to get right with the law and go home and then reapply. And further, I have to say, if we continue to let people flood over our borders without proper checks, including a wall of some type, then shame on us. That is just criminal. We've seen what's happened when we did amnesty under Reagan. They promised they were going to do the wall. We haven't done it yet. And as a result, people just kept coming over, figuring someday we'd give amnesty again. So we can't just do that. We have to have a secure border.
Yeah, we've already been down the amnesty pike. That's not worked out too well. And, I was saying the other day, Congressman, look, we bring, and everybody on CNN argues with me. They don't know the facts. We bring in 4 million foreign workers annually into the United States. When you add up every visa we have, work permit visas, student visas, graduate visas, HB1 visas, H2 visas, temporary work visas, you add them all up, plus regular green card visas, we bring 4 million foreign workers in annually to this country to take U.S. jobs and to drive down wages. That's fact. No matter what they tell me on CNN and argue with me, these are the facts. I mean, I got the facts. It's just people don't want to accept this. Final question. The president pushing this thing has gotten under the radar screen. He's got legislation for reforming air traffic control and making it a privatized system taken out of the hands of the government. On paper, I mean, it seems like a great idea. Let's get it out of the hands of the government. It's inefficient, ineffective. Mattis is behind it. He says no problem with the military, and they have an antiquated system they work on. So the president trying to, quote unquote, reinvent government and take that out of the hands of the public sector and put it into private hands. Are you in favor of that or not, and why?
I'm leaning yes. I have not read the whole bill yet, but I am leaning yes. The private aviators have real concerns with it. But from what I'm told, a lot of that is just concerns over some payments that they would have to make. I've even gotten Chairman Schuster to agree he would do a teleconference with some of my private aviators. Our system is one of the most antiquated in the industrialized world. They're still using paper. We can get, one of the advantages that this happens is you actually can get more flights in smaller communities if you can, have different air paths opened up. But when you're doing it on paper, a computer might see there's a path open for a flight from, Roanoke to Seattle. But when you're doing it on paper, nobody can see that. They don't understand there might be a flight path open that would make sense for this airline to actually do that into smaller cities. So I'm leaning yes. I'm still listening to my constituents and trying to sort out that general aviation portion of it. But I think we're real close to having something that will be good. And, there's always going to be controversy when you're trying to change the model. Mm-hmm. We're trying to change the model for the better. I think it's going to be a good thing. But like I say, I'm waiting until I've had time to do just a little more research before I make a final yes, but I'm definitely leaning yes.
Congressman, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us today. We have to get you on a regular basis. I really appreciate your insight and the analytical approach that you take to everything, and quite sobering as always. You are the king of candor, no question. Thanks for being with us, sir. More information, go to morgangriffith.house.gov,
Griffith,
right?
That's it.